Welcome back to Conversations with Kyle. Kyle is from Fidelity Charitable. We deal with a lot of charitable giving together, and today we're going to talk about how do we engage Generation 2 in your giving efforts. And oftentimes, Generation 1 has worked really hard and has this desire to give back to the community in their way. But Generation 2 may not have that. And so how do we create this legacy of giving? So Kyle, why don't you give us some tips on how do we engage the second generation?
Yeah, so I think just to set the stage here, Amar, oftentimes I see donors that are building up these huge accounts at Fidelity Charitable. And then all of a sudden, down the road, they pass away. And then their kids are taking over a donor advised fund that has, $1 million or more in it, but have never really given to charity themselves. So what I would say, just two really quick tips for those trying to engage the next generation is to share your philanthropic story. Right. So spend time thinking about your family's philanthropy, how it started, what you've learned, and how to think about a lasting impact on others' lives, thanks to the family's charitable ambition. So it's so important to have that conversation during your lifetime with the next generation and be hands-on. Right. I think it's so important to volunteer together as a family, engage different charities in the area and find what you like, but also try to identify the next generation's interest areas and take time doing both.
Yeah, because it could be totally different, right? Yeah,
Totally.
Generation could be totally aligned with vets and military organizations, and Generation 2 could be something to do with children and burn victims in hospitals or something different. And it's hard to find that middle ground without the communication aspect, right? So I think it's really important that when you're having these type of conversations to really open it up to discover what type of impact you want to have first, and then find causes that align with those impacts that you're wanting to have, and then find charities that work on those causes, right? Because there could be multiple charities that work on different causes, and there are different causes that align with what impacts that you're wanting. So remember, through a donor advised fund and through other giving vehicles, you can assign to the charity local chapter, local project. You can get very granular, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. You can specify specific initiatives or projects or campaigns that charities are working on. Yeah. Even down from a home office to a regional to even an individual office level. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that oftentimes, if you're trying to create this legacy of giving that some families struggle with, is measuring the impact of their gifts. Right. And going full circle to have that conversations like, we, because of these dollars that we gifted, X, Y, and Z was able to happen. Right.
Exactly. And there's so many resources out there for people that are looking to measure impact themselves without even asking the charity. I mean, sites out there like GuideStar and Give.org are great resources for people to see, well, hey, if I give $1 to this organization, how much is it being used? How much of that dollar is being used for the program and in the initiative versus the overhead? I mean, you can really see a lot of information to learn about charities. The other thing too, Amar, is that it's just so important to be open-minded in these situations, right? With the first generation to the next and the third, is the idea like, hey, like maybe there are different thoughts and beliefs between your kids that maybe the individual has right now, but I think being open-minded will help folks learn not only about what's important to them and be able to explain their mission better, but also to learn about the next generation and how that might be able to align.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that communication, open architecture is really important. And, you may learn about some causes that you never knew that your children or your nieces and nephews are really passionate about that through this process. So the other option, or I guess the other part of this, is that you can always have a third party kind of facilitate these type of conversations, right? We don't want this to come top down, mom and dad telling their kids what to do, right? We don't want that. We want the mom and dad and the children to be kind of on a level playing field. So if you're looking for a third party or an advisor like Kyle or myself to kind of facilitate these type of conversations, please reach out to us. And thank you for watching. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Amar.